Hello. Okay, today a little, well, not too much, but a little bit of a departure from kind of the more fashion boots that we usually talk about or boot people go crazy for. Of course, I've already done a couple uh, combat boot videos that I can reference, basically because I use army boots more often than regular hiking boots, as can get into in a minute. I had another pair of Nevados that have more of a soft bottom to them. So they look like they have arch support, but then they kind of crush when you walk on them. I don't know where they are right now, otherwise I'd be showing them. Um, but I think those would be more practical in terms of uh, kind of more savannah safari applications than the style of California hiking where you're on more rugged rocky terrain and that kind of thing. I think I took them on basically a day hike and was miserable, and so typically wanted a harder outsole. It's kind of a catch-22 though, because I found like a lot of times if the outsole is too hard, I feel like I'm more in danger of rolling my ankle because I'm having more resistance against the rocks. Whereas if I wear the mil spec or voodoo boots, like I was talking about in the other video, I'm feeling every rock through the outsole, same as those Nevados ones that are here somewhere. I'm not sure. I thought I bought two pairs of them at once, and I might have returned one pair of them and got some work boots instead. I don't remember, but I know I wore the one pair and I wouldn't have been able to return them, so I have no idea where they are. But it doesn't matter. Uh, the similar version or upgraded version, I guess, however you want to put it, was this. Now, this is an older model, but this is indicative of a typical hiking boot that people think of as a hiking boot. You've got a 5 to 6 inch height, shaft, not a big long combat, army boot kind of shaft, and not a super long uh, logger boot shaft, 10 or 12 inches or however high some people want to go. And riding boots, of course, even higher, not considered typically practical anymore. But a bit of a little harder of an outsole. I do have a couple pictures that I put already in the community part of the channel showing a different model of these where I didn't buy them new. I had kind of, gotten them and the rubber had already kind of disintegrated without me knowing it. So I went hiking and had all this dirt and rocks and stuff in my sole. So I'll put a couple pictures of that at the end. And if you want to see them, more closely or clearly or whatever, out on the community page. This has like some blackberries or something stuck to the bottom. But anyway, so typical, kind of rubber outsole, a bit of an arch here, but obviously not the same kind of heel as a dress or walking boot. Trying to see if there's any real difference here. No, they're both worn about the same. I don't know if these still fit me or not, but this is the Kaibab youth model. So I had pretty small feet at the time, and I couldn't get the adult ones that I probably wanted, but these were on sale. And at the time, like I said, these were the right size. They look like they might be a bit small for me now. Because, as I said, I shelved these to keep them good a long time ago and wore the military ones for so long that then when my feet grew, now I have all these shoes lying around that I can't remember if they fit or not. But a typical, kind of probably cotton nylon lace and, a kind of a padded foam tongue with a bit of a gusset and a speed hook here at the top that, a lot of people probably just skip completely, even though that's supposed to be your ankle support. If you skip the feature that they add to do the point of the reason for the boot being high because you're, I don't know, lazy or in a hurry or whatever, okay, sure. But yeah, typically all man-made kind of materials, probably intended to like, wick the sweat and dry quick overnight and that kind of thing if you're backpacking. I don't know how long people expect shoes like this to last. I guess it depends on how much you're hiking and whatnot. I mean, in when I was young in Boy Scouts and that kind of thing, I think most of us were able to wear our boots for 2 or 3 years until our feet, unless our feet grew in the meantime or something. I remember everybody kind of just having one pair of boots most of the time. Because obviously we weren't hiking and hiking and hiking every, we could only do like a week trip once a year or whatever. So it wasn't like doing the entire Pacific Trail or something, like that kind of thing where you'd kill a pair of shoes like this and need another pair, maybe even delivered to you on, when they do those resupply station things. But typically, kind of a suede leather with similar to the combat boots. There's usually some kind of nylon inlays with some kind of suede. I mean, there's 80 billion different versions of hiking boots. This one has a little bit of plastic or rubber back here to give it a little abrasion resistance, or probably more for looks than any real necessity. But and then of course just a glued footbed kind of deal there. So these are not typically meant to last as long as I try to make things like this last, which is again why I still have these when probably probably should have worn them out a long time ago and didn't. Um, Similarly, then a shorter version by Nike, and I don't know the name of these. They're just whatever hiking boots I bought at the time, or shoes rather. Um, a bit of traction on the outsole. I didn't. Now, typically people think of Nikes as like the comfort brand for running and jogging. I didn't find these terribly as comfortable as I would think, and the outsoles kind of wore more than you'd expect after only a couple of uses. But I think what happened was I took these out on like a hot day and the trail was closed, so I ended up like hiking on an asphalt bike trail instead, for 10 miles or something. So of course you're going to be less comfortable and wear out stuff, more quickly doing that. Again, with kind of, you get a little bit of hole here, even though I haven't worn these that much. And but when I did wear them, I like wore them. What I typically do with something like this, though, in the summer, because I've had so many malfunctions of shoes over the years, I usually carry something like this in a pack. So if my other shoes fail on me halfway down the path, I have a go-to pair, even though typically like I said, I want that ankle support of the higher. This not even being as high as I would typically like anymore, because like I said, I'm more used to wearing an army boot style. Let's turn around so you can see a little bit more. But this cups the ankle, so it's not terrible because it's meant to be athletic. Blah blah blah, and it's padding for days. Unlike a lot of the military boots aren't going to have the same padding, but they often will have insulation, which can be a bit warm for again the summer months. And again, we're having kind of a nylon, not nylon interplay here. I guess that's supposed to add durability and breathability at the same time. And then you've got a little bit of reinforcement on the toe here. So instead of blowing out like a typical pair of Vans or whatever, your toe will survive a little bit longer, but again, glued. So typically meant to last, a season or two at the most, and then, be replaced. But I still have them because, again, I mostly just throw them in my pouch and don't wear them. Just keep them for emergencies. Well, I don't know the laces in the top. This is kind of a alternate lacing system from your typical hole rivet eyelet deal. And the kind of thing that could malfunction if again, if you were trying to make the shoe last pretty long. But I haven't had an issue because I haven't worn them that much, and I imagine this is a pretty good quality nylon. It would be if the stitching failed somewhere, more likely than if this wore through. I think the shoelace would break before the eyelet, but they have likely changed the designs 20 times or more since I bought those. So okay, so now we're going to take a big jump in a different direction. Kind of an odd transition, maybe possibly a shoe I could do on its own. But in contrast, now starkly we have an all leather LL Bean moccasin, and they kind of, this one has a leather. Obviously, I wouldn't wear this hiking. I would swap that out for a lace that I would know would take the knot and hold it. This is meant to be a casual, more of a casual shoe than necessarily a hiking shoe. You're gonna kick off back feature, your uh, boat shoe kind of style mock lacing, pretty much decorative more than any actual function. It's not going to cinch up the heel any tighter or anything when you pull it. But different than the boat shoes, you do have a tread, so a bit more practical. Again, I thought the tread was a little more aggressive on these, so now that I'm seeing them, I'm thinking, okay, this is just a regular summer walking shoe. I'll just wear this as a shoe. I was thinking they were going to be too aggressive for normal, less shadow on my face, for normal usage, but no, not really. That's just a regular tread, but it is stitched down on the welt, so you could replace this outsole theoretically if you haven't, beat the thing up too bad. So this leather will, outlast, again, this having a bit of toe reinforcement here, but this is all going to get shredded just by usage, even if not by, sharp twigs and the environment and that sort of thing. This, of course, pretty much suede all the way around, so not much danger of that. Like I said, the problem here is you're going to have disintegration here, and you can get an outsole re-glued onto it, but not re-stitched. So whether or not it'd be worth it to get a new outsole re-glued versus the typical cost of a pair of these, your mileage may vary. But here, just a classic look. Again, now a boat shoe version, you're going to have a very slick bottom here, not really meant for street walking or day walking purposes or hiking at all. Although a lot of people still wear them as street shoes and just run the risk of falling flat on your face. But again, here, much more of a real heel than what we were discussing here. And then the Nike's having even less because it's basically a sneaker. So you can see the arch support is more inside the shoe than constructed into the heel or whatever, or the arch of and interacting with the heel, I guess I should say. And then what seems to be like a leather insole stamped, but there's a foam cushion underneath that, some kind of, it's not as hard of a leather underneath, but how long that lasts, I don't know. And I'm pretty sure they offer basically this. This is called the Allaghash Bison Oxford. So they might have changed the name from year to year. They might offer a slightly different model from year to year. Here you've got the toe here, a little bit of reinforcement, but more for contrast looks, I think, than, expecting this to really last forever. How long it takes. I mean, this is, I assume that this might be cow and this might be the bison, and so I'd imagine that the bison would last longer than cowhide. But so having this along here where the stress points are going to be and whatnot, might not be. And I don't know how far down this extends because you can feel this is much softer and this is stiffer. So eventually, blocking my own face with my own hand, having fun with the camera. So having this, and seeing how many years it can last will be, well, I'll try and do an update toward the end of summer or whatever when I've had a chance to wear these a bit, since we're still kind of in boot season right now. I haven't made kind of that switch, but most of these videos are intended to be more, previews than reviews, so you'll know when I'm doing more of a review. But obviously these other pairs I've worn a bit, but not enough to really be able to give an accurate time frame of how long I wore them versus how long I've had them. So I guess that'll have to kind of wrap it up for now.